Um, Funny, a long time ago, and I guess I'll say it was when I started in AA, I was told that if anybody ever asks you to do something, you say yes. And but I think, because our first inclination is always no. What do I know? I can't, and I look out and it's like, how can I teach you guys anything? I mean, you are just like masters in the spiritual path, and that's what makes it so wonderful to be here, on the one hand, because I'm among such greatness, so I love that. But anyways, so I think, I did come up with something and about the power of order and what it is, and that's what I'm going to present. So there we're at. Hey, go get to that. Yeah. See, you're already demanding it. So, anyways, well, first I'd like to present that concept to you, and you may or may not agree with it, but the world is exactly as it should be, and I mean exactly. And even if you don't think it's as it should be or could be, it definitely is what it is. What you see is what you get. So is that a cause for alarm, for hopelessness and despair, or for triumph and joy, or just peace and comfort? Follow along with me, and then we can decide. When I started out on this spiritual path, this was really a hard concept for me. At that time, I did not believe the world was as it should be at all. I mean, really. Starving children in Africa, child abuse, rape, murder, mayhem. How could you say this is how the world should be? I was 35 years old and not even married. Definitely not as it should be. How could anyone even say that this is how the world should be? But as I've grown with or into the concept that the world is exactly as it should be. The Course in Miracles gives us this hopeful sentiment. In love was I created, and in love will I remain. What can frighten me when all things be exactly as they are? And that is the hope to stay centered and to keep our eyes on God. And when we do that, there's nothing to be afraid of or nothing to frighten me. So why is it concern if the world is exactly the way it is supposed to be? One of my first Unity ministers, Jack Groverlin of Unity Boulder, used to say the universe is an honorable place. What I think that he was trying to convey is that there are certain laws, not only of physics, but spiritual laws, that are in operation at all times. It's like gravity. Whether you believe it or not, it doesn't matter. It still operates by its law. And when you step off a cliff, you are definitely going to be controlled by gravity, whether you believe it or not. So, in the same way that gravity works, spiritual laws are in operation around us and through us at all times, whether we know it or not, whether we use them or not. I just have a cursory understanding of the Bible, which you all know, and I can make any saying convoluted and, messed up, but pick little pieces here and there. But I liked when Jesus says, I did not come to abolish the laws, but to fulfill the laws. I don't think that he came to work miracles. I don't even think there is such a thing as miracles in the traditional sense of the word, the kind of miracles that defy or operate outside of the natural laws. Like when Wile E. Coyote runs off a cliff and just hangs in the air for a few seconds. That's defying natural law. But I believe even God must operate according to the law of physics. After all, he established them. Charles Filmer says, in Your God-Given Potential, to develop divine order in our life, there's our topic, we must learn to cooperate with spiritual law. So we have come to fulfill the law. To develop divine order in our life, we must learn to cooperate with spiritual law. And so that is our function here and our goal, and then the things that we need to learn and the things that we need to practice and establish and go with and everything. So I think that Jesus came to demonstrate and fulfill these spiritual laws, to explain what they are, to describe how they work, and to demonstrate them for us by the way that he lived his life. Jesus came to realize that his purpose was not to work miracles that only he would be able to do, but to show us how to live in accordance with divine laws so that we can work miracles too. To tell us that the things that he did, we can do too, and even greater things. Here on Earth, in this physical reality that we live in, the laws of physics always hold true. The universe is an honorable place. If I mix red and blue, I always get purple. If I bring hate and negativity into a situation, I create more hate and negativity. If I express light and love and let it shine, my circumstances and experiences change, and I can literally create a better world by myself just by changing. But while the process is divine and orderly, the outcomes may or may not be. And that's where it comes in. That's where we have to play our part, and that's what we're talking about. I can take this divine and orderly process and create chaos. Or I can take this divine and orderly process and create joy and love and beauty and happiness in this world. So now we come to the heart of the problem, or the core of the solution, depending on how you look at things: divine order. Divine order is the first law of the universe. Indeed, there could be no universe unless its parts were kept in perfect order. Think of the solar system, the way that the Earth is perfectly orbiting the sun and the other planets are in their rightful place too. How atoms are created with the exact number of protons and neutrons and electrons orbiting them. How molecules utilize these electrical charges and create another compound, like sodium and chloride, to get table salt. So back to the world we live in. Was it created by that vindictive, vengeful, angry God in the sky? Was it created by those other people who obviously don't have a clue and have really made a mess of things? Or was it created by me, at least partially? Or once again, am I just the innocent victim of this world that someone else created? And those are the kind of the questions that we have to answer ourselves about. That's why I say the world is exactly as it should be. And if the world is exactly as it should be, who created it? Who's going to take responsibility for it? Who's going to understand, not take responsibility, but who's going to understand their process in creating that and their process in being a part of that? From Unity's metaphysics textbook, Heart-Centered Metaphysics, what divine mind created is finished, and the outpicturing of divine ideas for humankind is living and growing and expanding. And what that means is that I'll just keep reading. Well, I guess that after God rested on the seventh day, he never did go back to work. Not that I read about. So, I know. So we can't blame him. He started out right. And he started out with the concept, let there be light, and there was light. So anyways, God got it started, and then on the last day, the sixth day, he created us. And that's where God's creation stops, and we created us. And now the creation is ours, and that's what we bring into this world. So God said, let us make humankind in our image, according to our likeness. That's where that whole concept comes from. We are created in the likeness of God, a divine being with the same powers of the divine, and our greatest power is the power to create. So he created us. In the beginning, before anything, the earth was a formless void. And out of the formless, God shaped it and created it and brought about forms: light, sky, water, dry land, plants, the moon and the sun, and all of the living creatures, birds, animals, and lastly, humankind. And this was all brought into existence by taking the formless, deciding what was desired, and making it manifest, bringing it into the world. And this is the process of divine order. Mind, which is idea, mind. The process of divine order is mind, idea, expression. And mind is that formless, not void, but the formless area of God, or mind, or the ether world, or whatever you want to call it. And it's from this formless substance that we have an idea or an outpicturing of, hey, I want to create this. This is what I want to take. I want to create a family for myself. I want to create love. I want to create a business. I want to create a brand new car, or whatever. And so we take those ideas that are formless, and we go through our mind and our imagination and our ideas and perceptions, and then we bring forth that in the world. And that is the idea of divine order: mind, idea, expression. So that is how, as we take God's creation and make it formless and make it into forms. So each person determines how it will be used. When used in accordance with spiritual principle, good results. When used out of alignment with spiritual principle, we miss the mark, which is the the unity definition of sin, and error results. So Charles Filmer says in Atom Smashing Power of the Mind, all ideas have their origin in divine mind, but their character, as unfolded by each person, depends entirely upon his or her acquaintance with God. And that's where my responsibility comes in, to make sure that my acquaintance with God is as close to the truth as I can get it, is so that I can receive the divine ideas, and I can take them and make them as close to perfection as I can. And I have to do that by connecting with God. Because it's only I who limit the process. It's only I who subvert the results. It's only I that takes these beautiful, formless ideals of perfection and brings them onto the world. And because we're human, and because we're, have egos sometimes, and sometimes they control us, but because we have all of these fallibles with our human nature, is like we bring about what we can bring about based on our connection with God. And there's nothing, I'm not saying good or bad or indifferent about it, but I mean, that's like the process, you know what I mean? We can only get what we can connect with to understand the divine principles. That's what we can bring about. And so I'm the only one who limits that. And how do I do that? Well, in 1,000 different ways, but one of them is by judging. So it's not that I look at life and see a glass that's half empty or half full. I look at life and demand, hey, I wanted a cheeseburger with that. So that's just, I remember when I heard that the first time. I didn't make that up, but I mean, that I knew that was exactly me. It didn't matter what I was giving. It's never enough. I wanted that. I wanted this. It wanted more. So I don't accept life as it is at all. And it's not good, and it's not bad. It's completely wrong. I don't see any cheeseburgers here. So I start thinking that I need to create the cheeseburgers and all the other things and circumstances that I think the world needs, because I have judged this world and found it lacking. Just plain wrong. I do not like it at all. So anyway, so I start doing that. But it's really my part in the creation process that's a little bit lacking or limited. Divine mind holds all the pure and perfect ideas that are just waiting to be brought into the world. Beauty, love, peace, and so many others. But I'm not quite connected fully to the divine spirit, and I have all these thoughts and feelings that are based on my experiences on earth, and I don't always quite bring them about in the best way. I want love, but I settle for the physical stuff. I want beauty, but I dye my hair and wear makeup, and eventually I'm going to have plastic surgery. I will. Because I can't even see the beauty that is me. I judge everything based on outer appearance, because judgment is an outer directed activity. When I look outside myself, I use my physical eyes, my physical senses. How does it sound? Is it too loud, screeching, beautiful, melodious? I decide. What does it taste like? Bitter, sweet, good, bad? What does it feel like? Hard, soft? What I look to outside of myself, I judge. I have to judge. That's what our senses are for. Our senses bring in information, and we judge that and label it and put a name on it and judge it. And once I judge it, I feel like I have to do something about it. I just can't let it be. Yeah. And that puts me in the world of duality, good and bad according to my perceptions. But what happens when I look inside of myself and try to connect to the divine? Do I decide if God should be more or less? No. I am just open to whatever experience I receive. I leave creation to be. Which I love that saying about that, to just let it be the way it is instead of going in there and mucking it all up, like I haven't already. So, anyways, Wayne Dyer had this quote: "Let the world unfold without always attempting to figure it out. Let relationships just be, since everything is going to stretch out in divine order. Don't try so hard to make something work. Simply allow." Which is actually one of Janine's 5 great blessings. Simply allow, right? Yeah, so anyways, don't always toil at trying to understand your mate, your children, your parents, your boss, or anything else, because the Tao is working at all times. And that's what I believe. The divine process, the spiritual nature, the universe is always working the way it should be. A spiritual teacher called Rupert Spira said that the greatest discovery in life is to discover that our essential nature does not share the limits nor the destiny of the body and mind. And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about judgment and everything. We judge, but it's on such limited senses. In fact, I was thinking we judge by what we hear. Some of us don't have the best of hearing. We judge by what we see. We don't always have the best sight. So we're judging everything by our senses instead of accepting everything through the eyes of the divine and the spiritual nature of it all. So the limits of the mind are what we perceive with our body. That's why it's so dangerous to look out upon the world and judge it to be lacking. We are using our limited senses to make judgments about what we see, and we invariably find it lacking in some way or another. And when we feel limited, we feel afraid, and we think that something needs to change outside in the world to make us feel better. A Course in Miracles says, when the Bible says, judge not that ye be not judged, it means that if you judge the reality of others, you will be unable to avoid judging your own reality. We just never get it that we don't have the qualifications to judge. We don't even have all the facts. So judgment cuts us off from our connection to divine spirit. Some say that's the symbolism of the Garden of Eden and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, the tree of judgment. When we judge, we leave our heart-centered space and are banished from the place of peace and connection to spirit. How often have we told, before you judge a man, walk a mile in his shoes? What does that mean? That you can never truly walk a mile in another person's shoes, so just never judge. You can never have that ability to see that. It's just fool's errand, really. We are not able to judge with any kind of equality or understanding or wisdom or anything at all. So here we are. We've looked at the world, found it lacking, and have constantly tried to correct it by doing something about it. Or worse, by telling everyone else that they need to do something about it. So basically, I'm feeling uncomfortable with something that you're doing, so would you mind just changing? Acting a little different so I'd feel more at ease? Maybe I could feel a little bit better about myself if you just blah, 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 fill in the blank. So it's kind of like this Dilbert cartoon, which I have to read. You should see a therapist about your problem. Well, if I'm happy and you're unhappy, doesn't that mean you should see a therapist and I should stay the way I am? And that's kind of, I just thought when I saw that was a great cartoon because that's exactly it. I'm uncomfortable with how you're behaving. Would you go get help? So it's like, but that doesn't go to my understanding of spiritual principles. And so we're uncomfortable with the way things are. We don't like what we see. We don't like what's going on. So obviously it's time for the others to change. Those people who just don't quite get it right now, who obviously made this mess and now need to clean it up. And that wasn't me. I've just been sitting here, minding my own business, going to Unity for 25 years. Not really my fault. So anyways, according to spiral dynamics, which is, remember we had Patricia here to teach us that, and Judy and I took a course in that and everything like that. But, spiral dynamics is one of the ways that people are describing the evolution of consciousness and throughout history. And it's also can be described as your evolution of consciousness here in your own life every single day. And so each level of the spiral moves from an I-centered paradigm to a we-centered paradigm. It starts out on the beige level, the basic instinct for survival, kill or be killed, individual existence, the Neanderthal life. Then it moves to the purple spiral about magic and mysticism and myth and trying to make sense of the world. And they did it back then without even science. It was a time of coming together. And then we, or society, rises to the red level, the tribal level. And with tribalism comes war, duality, us versus them. And all of these levels, like I say, you can, when we studied it, we tracked it through the Old Testament and through history, but you can also track it in your own life every day of where am I at. So we don't all operate on any given level we operate on a given level at a given time, but we don't necessarily stay there. We move back and forth between them, depending again on our spiritual connection. It's all about that spiritual connection. And then after the red level was the blue level, the place of laws and regulations and trying to create a civil society. And then the rugged individualism of the orange level, the me generation, the entrepreneur, big business, industrial age, and things like that. But that led us to the green level, because we are always rising in consciousness, and one paradigm creates another paradigm. And so right now, we're in the green level, and that's where we are as a society, and that's where we're trying to move to and also from. So people are moving into that level and out of that level, just like I move back and forth in that level. And it's appropriately colored as green because one of its goals is to save the planet. It's the green movement, and that is so very admirable. And recycling and electric cars and every little thing we can do is certain to help. So much of the green level, in my opinion, is about getting the rest of the world to change. come on, people, get together, recycle, do your part, you know. And so it's kind of an outer directed level. And what it's kind of like, we need to fix what those selfish, thoughtless orange people did. I mean, they practically destroyed the planet. So, but the green paradigm is still about getting other people to change. It's admirable and honorable, but can you really ever make anyone else change? Look how hard it is to change ourselves. So how can we get them to do that? Well, we can't, and you know that. So who really needs to change? Me. It's always about me. I just can't yell at the world and yell stop and make them do what I want them to do. I can't coerce or cajole or do anything about getting anyone to behave the way I want. And I have never had any much luck with that. So really, can I ever change the world? What actually is in my control? Where is my power? My power is in divine order. My power is in my ability to create, my ability to tap into divine spirit and to take those pure ideas of love, peace, wholeness, justice, and equality and express them on the physical plane here. And if I want to express the ideas in the purest form, I need to be in the purest form. The ideas, the formless, or some will call God or principle, if you've graduated from Metaphysics 4, are pure. The ideas are pure, but I can only manifest something equal to my ability to connect to the divine. So I need to move upwards. I need to move towards the individual yellow level, the level of light, where I connect with the divine, connect with my inner light, the seat of my soul, the place where I have the most direct, least obfuscated view of the divine. And from that place, my ideas are their most pure, at least as pure as my mortal soul can comprehend. And when that happens, when I connect, then our creations are more like the pure form of the ideas of beauty, love, and peace. When I move to the next level, the I-centered level, I turn within and access the point of power, the place where the little I meets the big I, and I connect with my divinity. And when I do that, when I am at that point, nothing needs to change. It is all perfection. The divine idea of order is the idea of adjustment. And as this is established in a person's thought, their mind and affairs will be at one with the universal harmony. And this is my goal. I want to be one with universal harmony, but I need to keep adjusting. I need to keep moving more towards my center and away from the world. If I look outside of myself for answers, I find the wrong ones. Peace, love, connection to spirit, they are not outside of me, they are inside of me. And isn't this what I want? So maybe the glass is full, which I love this when I found this, that it is full. But it's what I judge it to be. Rupert Spira, that teacher of non-duality, says that happiness is simply to allow everything to be exactly as it is from moment to moment. And I think, when I think of that, that is happiness. Quit fighting, quit struggling, quit trying to make them change. That is really frustrating. Quit trying to quit trying to just look at things and not even accept it. I mean, the whole act of non-acceptance or the whole act of judging is really a very emotional thing to do, and it's takes a lot away from our peace and everything. So happiness is simply to allow everything to be exactly as it is from moment to moment. Which brings us back to our topic, the power of order. The world is the way that it is because of the way that I is, and you is, and everyone else on this planet is. We all contribute to create this glorious or horrible world, depending on how you look at it, through divine order. We are all always creating through the process of divine order. Mind, idea, expression. Charles Fillmore says in his book, Jesus Christ Heals, the mind is neither seen nor felt. The idea is not seen, but felt. The manifestation appears, and that is divine order. And I love that saying, too, because lately, I forget where I got this concept about, but it's like, you know, when you are thinking about, you know, what you want or what you want to create in life, it's like, you don't necessarily want the red sports car, which would be really super nice, but what you want is the feeling of freedom, the feeling of success, the feeling of the wind in your hair or whatever. And so the ideas, and that's how we subvert the ideas. So rather just saying some altruistic idea like I want freedom, it's like I want a red sports car. But that's limiting. I limited that all pure, that all expansive idea, and I limit it to the red sports car, and that's what I get. So, you know, rather than being open to the divine and the magnitude and the infinite gifts of the universe. Where are we at? Order is the one underlying law of manifestation, and we each must learn to participate consciously in that process, which enables growth without struggle. And this, at the last minute when I was getting my talk together, I made this slide to put it on the screen, because when I read it again during my talk, I realized that is such an important concept, that we need to learn to participate consciously. We need to connect with the divine. We need to make that a habit in our life and a regular practice. We need to pay attention to our thoughts. We need to pay attention to our experiences. We need to pay attention to what's going on, and becoming aware of what we create. That because, maybe I don't want to take credit or responsibility for the whole world, but I'm definitely responsible for this right here. I know that is mine to be responsible for. And so I need to consciously remember that and to bring what I need to bring in every given situation. But the other thing that I really liked about this slide, it enables growth without struggle. And we always hear that you have to, that is so hard and they have to do anything. But if we use these principles and we're awake in our experience and we try to understand as much as we could, it doesn't have to be a struggle. Growth is not a struggle. Growth is a natural outpouring of our life and our situation and everything. So that I think is just like kind of a really good quote. Because we do want to eliminate struggle. It's kind of like that saying, pain is mandatory, but suffering is optional. So be awake in your experiences. So I want to close with a little parable. It's a story of a little Sufi girl. It's a Sufi story about a pretty young girl on her way to see her beloved. Along the way, she passes by a mullah, or a holy man, who is saying his prayers. But she is so intent upon seeing her beloved, she unknowingly walks right in front of the mullah. Now, this is something forbidden by religious law. It goes against an order that's been imposed by the society that she needs to obey. So righteously so, the mullah, his prayers having been disturbed, becomes upset. So he, he's all upset, but he calms himself down, sits there, prays again for another couple hours till he's all, calm again. But later that afternoon, after seeing her beloved and returning home, she again passes near him. Again, his prayers are disturbed and he is upset. And this time, he scolds her for her mistake, saying, "It was not right for you to cross in front of me while I was offering my prayer. I was thinking of God, the Lord of heaven, and you disturbed me." She innocently replies, "I'm sorry. I don't know yet of God in prayer. I was on the way to see my beloved and thinking only of my beloved. I did not see you praying." And then she turns and she asks him, "But how could you, who are thinking of God, see me? And how could I, if I were thinking of God, see anything but beauty, peace, love, and perfection in this world?" There.